better and better and better, and I just got everything back by a lot more.
So there is always a key moment for any stage in life. Like you met her, like you had to be sleeping in your car, key moment. Now, what's the key moment, if you remember, from that moment where you were technically homeless, almost broken? What was the moment that you said, okay, this what I'm doing is what is going to take me back into where I'm dreaming of, my goals? Do you remember that precise moment?
I don't know if you remember, but I'll maybe you'll remember and you could add on to it. But when I was every year I got a little bit better, but I wasn't perfect. So let's say I was getting 15% better a year, 15%. But in the first couple of years, I was still like, she would leave and she would go stay at her mom's house. I would go and party with my friends and be with other girls and things like that. And I wasn't a great guy. I was still getting like in trouble, and
I think
making mistakes. And then one day I was out late and I was partying and I didn't sleep because I was under the influence. So I didn't sleep for an entire day. So it's like 6, 7 a.m. and I leave and I get in an accident and I hit a car. And I'm like, I'm bad. Like I was drinking all night. And among other things, I mean, I did drugs. I didn't do anything. I never stuck a needle in me, but I did drugs that would keep you up. And I crashed and I hit a car, and I'm like, damn, I'm like really drunk right now, but and really high, but and then the cops get there. I had shades on, and since it was the morning, it was daylight, so they didn't even notice that I was like really messed up, and I didn't have insurance. And this was like a couple years after 2008. So I was already making a little bit of good. I was doing okay, but I was still surviving and fighting the meltdown of the mortgage industry. And that was when I noticed, like, damn, this was a close call. I could have gotten my 4th DUI. And then after that, I said, you know what? I have to change. This is enough. And that was a moment that I just said, I'm not going to do any of this. And I made some changes in my life and I separated from toxic people.
That's so important. That was the turning point that you were mentioning.
Yes, I do want to add to that. It was really because I was there with him. And
so you were in the accident?
I was keeping him awake. Yeah. And I'm like, Albert, because I'm always watching my surroundings and I like to be in control of situations. That's why it's always an issue when he drives, because I hate being a passenger, right? I'm literally driving in the passenger seat. Always. It's crazy. But I remember that. And I remember just thinking like, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing, right? Because getting rid of bad habits, it's hard. You have to replace it with new habits. And that's just what we were used to doing, which was going out, working all day, going out. But that time it was just really the wrong crowd. And I even told him, I'm like, who are these people? Like, you have to pay for everything. Like, they don't come unless we have certain things, which drugs, in other words. I'm not really a drug person, but I have experimented a tiny bit. And we just, that was scary because they could have taken him away. I mean, it was really a close call. And I think for both of us, it was more of a realization of what are we doing? Like, what is this? Why are we doing this to ourselves? And like I told him, it's a habit because it doesn't even feel good. We're wondering why we did that, wanting it to go away or for the effect to wear out when we didn't have to do it. Nobody forced us. Does that make sense? But when you're in an environment where everybody's doing it, it's a little bit harder to resist to it, in other words.
Right. But the interesting part is that you guys were able to get to that point, the turning point, and decide, okay, this is not good for us. We have to change. And that's, you need a will, to do that. So it's not like, because most of the people don't do it. And they go back and, the problems keep growing and then, you don't end in the right place. But you guys have that seed of wellness, of being good human beings. And you decided, okay, this is not good for me. We're going to change it. And now, what happened after that accident? How did you turn the page and really open the new movie in your life?
That's when everything got better and better.
Well, after that accident, I didn't have any insurance. So I had an Audi A6, and this was a car that I financed under my dad's credit because my credit was bad. I had $80,000 of collections. I had a 480 FICO score, no loan, no credit cards, no credit company would accept me. So I got under my dad's name, but my credit was getting a little bit better. Years were passing by, and it was getting better from the 2008 crash. This was around 2010, 2011, like when I had that car and I was doing a bit better. We were getting back up on our feet, and I crashed my Audi A6 into this Nissan Murano. Is it Murano? That ugly Nissan SUV. Well, I don't. Murano, yeah.
Murano,
so
yes.
I hit it, and so they and I'm sorry if you have a Murano, but this guy came out and he said, "You hit my car, and give me what's your insurance?" And I said, you know what? I don't have it with me, but I could fix your car. So we left and everything. So he gave me his estimate. He took it to his place. And he said it was like $7,000, I think, $7,000, and he said it's $7,000, and that was like all of the money that I had in my available. So I remember I gave him all that money, and I wiped all my savings that I had. So now I was like,
real bottom line.
But more importantly, I was like, you know what? I could have ended up in jail for a fourth DUI because I had 3 DUIs, but the third one wasn't a DUI because I got a lawyer and they reduced it to a wet reckless. So because it wasn't considered a third DUI, I didn't get jail time. So I did turn in myself into the federal prison, but they told me like, you're lucky. It's your lucky day. You don't have to come in. Just check in, check out, and they let me go. So
you were really going through tough times, rough times.
I mean, and it was all because of the wrong environment. So when I put myself in the right, when I put myself in the right environment, that's when everything started changing.
Well, we changed brokerages. Remember that?
Yeah. So I moved from one broker to a different broker, like across from Pasadena all the way to Orange. And that's where everything started changing because these people were doing things ethically, and in the past they were doing it unethically.
So we're talking about what, 2012,
2011,
2011.
Yeah.
So 3 years after the recession, now, and then the growth, because you really went fast. How did it happen? And how fast? And what did you do that was, besides changing the broker, what was the real change?
2011, I moved to a different broker who was the last broker I worked for. And this company, the person was Mark. So I went into his brokerage. He was my mentor at the time. He was a millionaire. And he told me, Albert, you have to be more structured because I was really wild and I was just like a pusher. Like I would get a deal and I would just want to close it fast and like my old ways. Like I would want to like take shortcuts. And he told me you have to be structured and you can't take shortcuts. You have to get an assistant. You have to run your loan officer career like a business. So I started getting more polished in business. And then he told me, Albert, when you make money, you have to get that money, get a little bit of it, and put it aside so that you could buy some real estate. You got to start buying multi-units. And I said, oh, nobody has ever told me that. And so I started listening to him. 2013, I made $300,000, and I decided to open up my own business. So that's when I opened up the mortgage guy, because one day I was laying around in the couch, and her sisters, who now both of them work for us. It's funny, as funny as it sounds. Evelyn and Crystal. So Evelyn now is our nanny, and Crystal is our front desk girl for the mortgage guys. So at the time, I'm laying in the sofa and I'm daydreaming, and I'm just thinking just daydreaming. And, we're doing okay, but we're not doing that good. And she asked me what are you doing? What are you thinking about? And I said, I'm thinking about opening up a company. And she tells me, well, what are you going to call it? And I tell her, well, I do mortgages and I'm a guy, so I'm going to call it the mortgage guy. And I'm just thinking about, and the logo is going to be like a guy with a sports coat, and he's going to have a red tie and a blue, like a navy blue sports coat, just like Donald Trump, because his outfit, because Donald Trump, I used to read a lot of his books, and I was really inspired and into business, and I loved his books. And I said, I'm going to wear that outfit, and it's going to be me with spiky hair, because I used to have hair at the time. And now that's a different story, but I cut my hair like this because it saves me time. But I tell her I'm going to call it the mortgage guy. I'm going to name it the mortgage guy, and we're going to start a business. And then that's when the idea hit. And sometimes you have ideas that could be $1 billion ideas, could be $1 million ideas, or it could be $100,000 idea. Depends where you're at in life at the time, and people just don't execute. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to make it happen. So I executed on it. I went home, and I was thinking like, well, let me ask my current broker, Mark, how do you open up a company? How do you start? Should I get a broker's license? Obviously, he didn't want to share any information because he thought I was going to become a competitor. And that's what most people think. Like, you can't ask him like, hey, how do I start a business to put you out of business? People are scared. So I figured it out on my own. I went home, I Googled, how do you start a company? And then they said, well, you could file a corporation, an LLC, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I filed a corporation, started a company, and then we started the mortgage guy. And then that's when everything started. And then the next part is when I met Grant Cardone. I don't know if you want to add something to that.
Well, there was this broker who told Albert, her name is Gina. I don't want to say her last name, but she's like, why don't you become a broker? Because we did pretty well, just him and I, and we were like a team. Well, we are a team. And then we started working on, because it's a long process. Like, people think that it happens overnight and you just take a test, and it's not in reality that way, especially when you have DUIs and you have to explain to the DRE why you have all this stuff on your record, right? So that was I remember like sitting there writing letters with him. Like, it's a process. And a lot of the times, if any of you are listening and it just looks so long, you just have to start and just keep going. Because for somebody, it could take 6 months to get to a certain place of what it's going to take to completely launch your business. And to others, it might take a year, 2 years. Everybody's different. So it just depends. The thing is, you cannot quit, because quitting is the easy part. That's the easy. You could just quit and be like, oh, whatever, it didn't work out, right? Yeah. Now, if you keep going, I always tell people this, time is going to pass regardless. So you might as well do it. Just follow through with the plan. You got to
be resilient.
That's right.
And, okay, so you were doing good. Now you have the mortgage guy. And what happened then? Did you open another? How many companies you have today?
Mm-hmm. We have 4 businesses now. But the fourth one is a silent one, because that's just real estate investing. But we have 3 companies. We have the mortgage guys, we have Ambiance Realty, and we have Driven Enterprises, which is the newest one.
All right.
And the mortgage guy, that was the initial company, the mortgage guy. But a mentor told me add an S to the company to make it the mortgage guys. So that's what we did, and that's why it's now the mortgage guys, which I remember very clearly. He said the mortgage guy is a $10 million company, but the mortgage guys is a $1 billion company. And then my eyes opened, and I said, you know what? It's going to be the mortgage guys.
Interesting. Now, you were growing. So how did you balance family, relationships, and business? Was it difficult? Fights, arguments? How did you handle, difference in opinions?
With family, like what type of family?
Your wife, because you're a partner, at the same time, you have a relationship, correct?
Yeah.
So most of the Latino entrepreneurs, we do business with family. And that's an issue. And the family becomes a partner. But a business is different to operating, let's say a family. So how do you manage to keep both either together or separated in a way that business injects another kind of conversation and conflict? How do you manage both and keep it together?
Really quick. So for us, it really, at least the way that I look at it, it hasn't really been that difficult, because him and I are very similar. He has a lot of things I don't have, and I have things he doesn't have. So it makes us really powerful together.
Complement each other.
Exactly. And we both love to work. We both love money. Like, he's not lazy. I'm not lazy. Like, we'll do whatever it takes. It doesn't matter if it's an all-nighter, 11 p.m. Like, it never mattered. And we always put work first. So no matter